Okay, so we're going to do kind of a similar thing today. Does anybody know Dr. Jason Wilson? Not personally, he's an author. He runs a martial arts program for inner city black boys. No, look him up. Look him up.
Dr. Jason
Wilson.
Yeah.
So he has a sort of a philosophy, or part of the program that he created is this idea of, and it's gendered of course, a comprehensive man. We're going to say comprehensive human for the social justice aspect of it. But his idea is that, kind of like some of the stuff I've talked about recently, existence is to be experienced. Right? There's nothing that should be off limits in the sense of, some kind of moral right and wrong or good and bad. There's just different ways to navigate all of that stuff. So he talks about, learning to access emotions as young men probably sets up most people for whatever a better lived experience is as an adult, as a mature person. People who don't have access to, good parenting or training programs or, things that help us get our emotions not under control, but get comfortable with feeling what those feel like. Most people experience a detriment if you don't get that in childhood, right? So his program tries to do some of the same stuff, in different ways that we've talked about. He kind of uses like the 4 pillars system, but I think he has 8. And he has kind of a little bit more heavy spiritual bent to it. He's a Christian, a believer himself, so there's a religiosity to it that, take it or leave it, but that's kind of his focus. So today, what we're going to do, after kind of thinking about values, beliefs, meanings, and goals, we're going to put the 4 pillars up here, and we're going to talk about like the spectrum of each of those, right? So we have like thinking about letter grades, right? Anything below a C doesn't count. So like the worst you can do at life is like 70%. 70 to 80 is your C range, 80 to 90 is your B range, 90 and above is like stellar, right? So let's spell it right on the first try. Yes. Okay. So we know we have physical, psychological, emotional, smallest chalk ever, and spiritual. Okay? And then we've got like 70%, 80%. So there's, again, no wrong way to do this. I want as much feedback as you guys can provide. When we think about each of these 4 pillars, again, there's like a spectrum of how to do them well, right? We're going to say, like, if you're at 70%, you obviously have lots of room to improve. But even here, right, this isn't necessarily just surviving, right? Most of us in the room have adequate employment, we have a family life, we have someplace to sleep, right? We have, generally speaking, our basic needs covered, right? We all know that there are people who are in much worse situations. They're not on the board right now. Okay, so just keeping it in context. Right, if we were all on this side, none of us would be in the room because we'd have all of our ducks in a row, right? We would have our shit together, however you want to phrase that. Okay? So right now, all of us are kind of floating somewhere between these two. Okay? So let's articulate it a little bit. If you are on your physical pillar and you're at 70%, what might that mean, or what might that look like?
Exercising once a week, maybe.
Okay, good. Per week. What might 80% look like? What might 80% look like? Don't just say working out 2 times a week.
Um,
80% is jumping into physical activity spontaneously and being okay with it.
Maybe you're eating better.
you're happy with your body and how you are, your physical body?
You're happy with it?
Yeah.
Meaning it doesn't need to change?
No, I think you're maybe comfortable with it. Yeah. No, it doesn't need to change because people are in 70, 80, and 90. Some of them are not happy with their physical body, I guess.
Yeah, and I don't want to, again, there's no wrong way to do that, but I want to say, like, this is like making it, right? So this is where I would put something like you're talking about, where you're like, I'm kind of good. I don't have any major health issues, right? Not any major medications, right? Aches and pains, yada yada,
Right.
right? Here, we're kind of like, we're leaning toward thriving, right? So the standard kind of goes up a little bit.
Right.
It gets a little more intense.
Yeah.
So not necessarily like content,
Right.
right? But maybe like this is like pushing.
Right.
This is content. I'm doing okay. I'm making it. This is like I have a focused
Yeah.
goal. or purpose.
Maybe that's it. Maybe you have goals about your fitness.
Okay,
about
good, good.
And feeling like you can achieve goals, and achievable goals, and that,
For sure.
things that can actually happen, or maybe are happening.
For sure.
Nice. What about 90%?
Maybe you're energized.
Nice. Nice.
Or I think turnt is the word.
Say it again.
Turnt.
It's lit.
You're lit at
Nice.
90.
Energized. And just to be clear, this doesn't mean that you're not ever tired, right? But there's almost like a sense of being driven, right? Again, thinking back to maybe like more meaning, more purpose, right? Some deeper qualities of what it means to be physically healthy, right? And again, we're super simplifying this, so let's go back over these. What do you pay attention to at this level of health, at this level of physicality? Again, like basic needs taken care of. We all are familiar with Maslow's hierarchy, right? You've got the simple shit pretty well under control. What might be a thing that you're kind of like paying attention to at 70%?
Not dying early.
Yeah, exactly. So just like sustainable life, right? Like just living a good life.
Waking up and feeling okay.
Waking up and feeling okay. I love these things. Right? And these are practices that maybe some of us have kind of let slip in our addiction, right? Not choosing, but making choices the night prior so that when we wake up the next day, there is a unpleasantness about it, right? And knowing that that's how the equation goes, and still making that choice. You're not here yet. You're probably hovering around 60, right? Okay, what about eating? So now, again, there's a little more attention, a little more focus. What are the things we start paying attention to where we have goals that we are looking forward to and incremental progress happens every day? What are the things that happen on a daily basis that put us at 80%?
I think you start to make better decisions about what you eat, how much you sleep, and you start to implement strategies to achieve your goals
There we go.
throughout your life.
So better, again, I'm always going to push back about like, good, bad, whatever, right? But implementing strategies, that's something that is sort of value negligible, right? It doesn't have to be good or bad, it has to be like on task,
Right.
right? You have to show up to making food that serves its purpose, whatever that purpose
Right.
is, right?
Yeah, if your goal is to run a 7-minute or a 6-minute mile, you're going to want to eat healthier to
Yeah,
achieve that.
yeah.
Those are strategies to achieve
Yeah,
that.
good. And this is what I see as the difference between these right here. this person is existing and doing it okay. This person has developed, whatever other words you want to use, strategies, plans. What are some other ones, like templates, forecasts, programs, all of those things start to happen here. Okay, what about here?
I think it's kind of, well, it's not just contentment, it's being surprised at you. So it's like happily surprised at what you achieve in a day. Like look back on the day and be like, wow, I did that, or look at this outcome that I didn't even anticipate from the physical outcomes of what I'm trying to accomplish.
Okay,
So I
interesting.
don't just have achievable goals, I'm exceeding them.
Yeah.
Okay,
Or finding outcomes I didn't expect.
sure, cool. That could be. What else?
Let you know when I get there.
Yeah, for sure. Maybe we don't know yet, that's okay. So the thing I think about is like refining, right? If we've established strategies, programs, etc. here, we're tracking things, we're paying attention to them. The bullseye gets smaller, right? We don't have as many distractions, we don't allow ourselves to lose focus in other ways, right? We kind of like, we dial it in, however you want to say that. Okay? So again, real briefly, in the process of sobriety, how do we start to make these things happen? Because you don't just go from this to this, right? You don't just be like, all right, I'm ready to start refining shit. How do we get there?
Incremental changes.
Okay, good.
Yeah, come to the 70% thing, sort of just like, that's just the quitting of the booze or whatever. That's the baseline.
Sure.
And then once you achieve that, you kind of move on to, delving deeper or getting into the root causes. And then, I don't know what 90% looks like.
Not yet, you don't.
Nowhere near it yet.
Yeah. Yeah, good.
Yeah, for me, moving to 70 or 80 in sobriety, at 70 or maybe 75, I was doing this. I was doing this because I had to do this. And when you start making decisions outside of this that are going to allow you to start doing more, going on, and set goals for yourself, really it's about the goal, right? And trying to achieve that goal is the difference, in my opinion.
Good.
I think it's having a stable foundation to build on too. Like I'm not leaping ahead to 80 or 90%. I'm building on something I feel like I can fall back on if I have a bad day.
For sure.
I don't go from 90 to 60, I go from 90 to 80.
Exactly. I love incremental, right? I love setting up a foundation. So some of this is designed, my intention is to try to take some of the pressure off of ourselves, right? Sometimes, I've had conversations with guys who decide to come into treatment and they're just like, I just want to be the best that I can in the first 2 weeks. And it's like, you haven't even finished withdrawal yet. Like, you gotta get through the hard shit, right? And to a degree, it can kind of take the pressure off of the whole thing, right? Where you're just like, okay, realistically, I know I'm not even at 70% yet. Why am I even thinking about 90%? Keep it in context. Okay, psychologically. Psychologically, what happens at 70%? Again, basic needs are taken care of. What's your internal dialogue? How do you communicate with yourself at 70%?
%, you're just barely checking in
Just barely checking.
with yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Or just either barely or just beginning to.
And what might that look like? Like what's the, maybe not your own experience, but
Well, if you're talking in the context of recovery, you're telling yourself not what necessarily what you should be doing, but what you shouldn't be doing.
there we go. Nice.
I don't know I don't know exactly where I'm gonna go, but I know what I do. I don't know what I do want, but I know what I don't want.
Right. That's a great place.
So I guess deductive.
Deductive, for sure. And that's a really easy place to start, right? I just don't have to do that thing And anything else that happens is, for right now, okay. Okay, jumping up to 80%. What happens in your internal dialogue at 80%? Excuse me.
I think for me, it's being able to find positives more easily, something positive to talk about to myself rather than just the negatives.
So what's that look like, or how do you go from barely checking in to finding more positive things?
I think it's hard, especially at 70%, to not just be barely checking in because I don't want to recognize some of the problems, to actually finding things that are going well, and being able to focus more time on what's going well rather than what isn't, or what the potential problems are, or how something might. Not seeing everything as not seeing the downside of what's happening, but the potential upside. You know, it's just seeing potential rather than consequence.
Sure, and I love potential. Is this like a shift from like problem focus to solution focus?
That's how I think I'm saying it, personally.
It kind of feels like going from barely checking in to being positive is checking in more.
Yeah.
Like that's the bridge.
Great. So maybe this just becomes a more regular, more habitual process.
You're asking yourself questions.
Going to 90%. Excuse me, good lord. Going to 90%. What happens in your head at 90%?
I feel like you're basically perfect. You don't have. It's not helpful.
The God complex sets in.
But like you're as personally aware as you possibly can be. You know when to do check-ins. You know when like to survive when you're going to go into a dangerous situation, and you're already super prepared. Which is kind of something we already talked about in the 80%. But like it's not. Maybe it's just second nature to you by that point. Ideally.
Yeah, nice. I'll try to remember a relevant quote, but I think I'm going to screw it up. So for me, when I think about this, I like to think about how our imagination works, right? And the quote is something like, worry is the worst misuse of your imagination, right? It is imagining just the shittiest stuff that can happen. And I think this is where this is, right? Where we're still maybe sort of problem-oriented, we're still kind of like, fuck, it's gonna suck to be sober, or something along those lines, right? Like David's saying, we get to hear, and worry is not really part of the process anymore, right? Now our imagination is focused on the good things that I'm finding, the positive solutions, et cetera, et cetera. Is that kind of like?
Yeah, something like that.
I'm just gonna put no worries, because that seems simple, but we know that that's not really what happens, but.
For me, it's like knowing who I am too, like understanding who I am.
Right, and there's, again, we're being so simple here because it's a small chalkboard, but there's an element of getting to know yourself as a sober person that is imperative, right?
Yeah.
You definitely have to do it, and again, that's why we started with values, beliefs, meanings, and goals. Like, that's the internal stuff that as you work through treatment, you have to be like, is this really, like, what am I about?
It is. I mean, I'm relearning everything about myself.
Yeah.
Everything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
As it should be, right?
Right.
Because I mean, not should all over ourselves, but you can't stay the same if you want something different.
Right.
Good. Anything else on psychological? Nice. Emotional. So again, this is like relational, right? Psychological is very much your internal, your self-focused kind of stuff. Emotional is now where we take that and now how do we interact with the people around us. So this can be relationships and family, obviously. This can be work colleagues. This can be any kind of hobbies or groups you're affiliated with, right? This can also be things like, some of us deal with social anxiety or having trouble getting to the point where we feel comfortable in social settings, especially if your use was tied to parties or work or other things, now you have to figure out how to navigate that without that substance. So at 70%, what is our emotional state?
Holding it together.
Holding it together, the duct tape solution. And what do you mean by holding it together? What does that look like in practicality?
It's struggling, but not maybe outwardly struggling or being able to get through in terms of relationships, being able to get through relationships and be outwardly successful or even accomplishing the bare minimum, not self-destructing.
Sure.
So a lot of it is like ignoring your emotions.
Yeah.
It's getting through your day.
Yeah.
Getting through your day. What was I just gonna say? Holding it together. But I think you're right, yeah. It's managing, right? Again, we have our basic needs taken care of. We are in a loving relationship. We know that our substance use has negatively affected it. We're trying to get back to something positive. Good, what about 80%?
For me, 80% is understanding my emotions or attempting to understand them.
And why is that important?
Well, it's important for me in recovery because if I do not understand my emotions, and I can't name them, and I can't think, hey, this X, Y, and Z made me feel X, Y, and Z way, things start to stack, and I become emotionally distressed. And being emotionally distressed sucks, first of all, and second of all, it makes me more prone to a potential relapse.
Okay, so just to check in, because that to me sounds like a you situation,
Yeah.
which is valid, but this is more like psychological.
Okay.
Phrase what you just said in terms of how you interact in relationship.
Okay, if I am acting in, if my partner is maybe doing something that is making me feel a certain type of way, whether that's really sad or upset, and I don't voice that, how that has made me feel, that may continue to happen and could, I could be in a relationship where my emotions aren't considered, not considered, but if they don't know about how a certain action makes me feel or the emotions around it, then that would be, they wouldn't be able to fix it because they don't know.
Okay, so what I hear is more an issue of communication
Sure.
than an issue of understanding. So
Right.
what you're talking about is being able to experience something negative, and instead of maybe relying on the substance to make that feel better or to numb it out, you develop your communication skills so you can say to your partner, hey, what you just did hurt my feelings.
Yeah, and part of that is understanding your emotions.
Sure, yeah,
in order to
absolutely,
communicate.
absolutely, yeah. I just want to make sure that we're focusing, like, this is how we interact with other people. So definitely understanding your emotions is an element of that.
Right,
But more is the ability
to
to,
voice that.
yeah,
communicate that.
yeah, exactly. And even understand emotions is like being able to observe your partner and see that she probably doesn't have ill intent. She's not maliciously trying to wound you.
Right.
There's something else going on, and there's a disconnect that needs to be repaired.
Yeah.
Okay, good.
And, caring about other people's emotions too, like,
Should be part of it.
yeah.
Yeah, good. Nice. What about 90%?
I think that what you just said about other people's emotions, that kind of fits into the 90 percentile where you're giving back or paying it forward and understanding, being emotionally available for other people, helping other people.
Okay, okay. Emotional availability. I like that. Because I also feel like it's something around boundaries, right? It's something around like understanding your own emotions well enough. Is boundaries kind of what you're going for, or is it something
It's
else?
more like somebody else is experiencing something emotional and maybe they're struggling with it, and you feel comfortable with your emotional state to bridge the gap.
Okay, so now we're talking about something like holding space or something like that, where you can be in the presence of somebody who's emotionally dysregulated without it negatively impacting you.
Yes, and possibly additionally being helpful to them. Yes.
Okay, put it in with a two-word blah 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 that goes right there.
You want a two-word blah.
Or just, let's be as specific as we can about it. I think emotional availability is kind of that, but it seems a little bit broad and vague.
Patience with others,
Patience.
or understanding of others.
Yeah.
Just to be empathy.
Is it helpful confidence? Is that
Helpful
yourself
confidence?
being helpful?
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely that. Yeah. That's kind of what I'm.
Okay, maybe let's try this. Maybe
I like empathetic.
I was gonna say, can you describe maybe like an emotional state? Because down here, in 70%, empathy and compassion are not helping, or not available, right? We're kind of, I feel like that's sort of like advanced emotion. You know what I mean? Where it's like you're able to perceive what is happening to somebody, and it doesn't impact you, and you can offer assistance.
Yes.
So-
You're trying to distill that.
Yeah, exactly. I'm definitely simplifying it for sure. So are those emotional states of compassion and empathy kind of like the vibe that you're going for?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, so let's maybe just put those. Because again, that requires some development, right? Like maybe here you just have happiness and sadness.
Yeah, for yourself.
Or that's the things that you can perceive in other people. There's not a lot of nuance.
So then it's emotional refinement.
There we go. There we go. I knew we did there.
And that's kind of aligned with the smaller bullseye.
Exactly.
In the physical realm.
Exactly. Is refinement a word?
Yes.
Sure.
Of course.
Nice, that was good. Good. Yeah, and again, it's a small chalkboard, but maybe we could briefly just kind of walk through these things. When we're at 70%, like, what are some of the more simple or more basic kind of emotional states that we're familiar with? I mean, again, happiness, sadness, what's a couple others?
Anxious,
Anxious,
angry.
angry. Okay? As we develop these, right, as we get to be more skilled in both expressing and observing emotion, what starts to get deeper? How do we take those maybe four that we mentioned and go deeper into them? What do you smile?
I spaced out. I was thinking of
Oh,
an Instagram reel. Sorry.
nice. That's a good one.
I'm paying attention. Don't worry.
Well, I think part of it is like going deeper, anger might not be anger, it might be seated in something else, like
Exactly.
fear
Right.
or.
This is exactly my point, right?
Yeah.
If you just observe sadness and you can address and interact with the sadness, is that helpful? Absolutely. But if you had a bit more robust understanding of emotion and could see that sadness is the thing being expressed, but really it's like fear that
Right.
is the root of that, that's going to make you a better partner, better colleague, better blah, blah, blah.
And understanding, okay, what am I afraid of,
Yeah, good,
is when you get into the refinement, man.
Good, good. So maybe if we haven't written anything down yet, that could be a thing that we maybe write down and think about for next week. How do we get emotional refinement? Where do we start in that process? Any other kind of reflective questions you want to ask about that?
Clock's
It's
broken.
already 11 o'clock.
The clock's broken. It's like
What time is it?
I guess it's gonna be pissed.
it's 8:35.
8:35. Thank you.
I mean, if I come home at 11 tonight.
Yeah, that would have to be.
You
None of us will live through that. Okay, spiritual. Again, I just want to clarify, when I say spiritual, this doesn't have to do anything with religiosity if that doesn't vibe with you. If it does vibe with you, that's great too. But we understand that the spiritual elements are more about like an understanding of things bigger than us, experiencing awe. There's lots of different ways to phrase it that don't have to be rooted in any kind of religious tradition if you're not into that, but also obviously there are plenty of religious practices that have to do with these things and how we can, move through the spectrum in a meaningful way. So if you're at 70% spirituality, what does that look like? Is that another Instagram reel?
No, I was
Okay.
actually, I had a
Okay.
thought, but it was a joke. It's not helpful.
Please, no, let's hear
You're
it.
just listening to your pastor.
It could be.
Or your religious leader equivalent.
Yeah, just following the rules. There's nothing wrong with that. I mean, there are plenty of religious traditions that prescribe exactly how they think you should live, and if you
Yeah.
do those things, you're doing great.
Are we just being ambivalent about it?
Yeah, I guess. I mean, I'm not religious. I was raised in a very fundamentalist tradition, so I say that very flippantly. But I mean, if other people find comfort in that, I mean, I'm not going to judge them for it.
For sure.
70% is kind of spiritual flatness.
I think I like the idea that you're going with, but be a little more articulate for me. Can you describe what that means?
Well, so it's we're dealing with percentiles. So you're dealing with the bare minimum. So it's not being it's not a spiritual crisis, but it's a spiritual survival or it's a spiritual minimum. I'm looking for a better word.
Spiritual minimum. Like you only cover 2 of the commandments, and that's it. As long as you're not killing anybody,
Well,
you're good to go.
it would be 7 out of 10.
It would be
Lazy Catholics that only goes to church on Sunday.
Well, you get to pick which ones.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
I think, yeah.
Grandma Babs.
Yeah, I was gonna say that grandma's turning over into great.
Yeah.
But again, let's try and be more
It's
articulate. So it's like, there's an awareness, right? There's, at 70%, we at least know that there's something bigger than ourselves out there, right?
Yeah, okay, so if the apex of spirituality is enlightenment,
Sure.
or actualization, or whatever you want to call it,
Sure.
that's what, enlightenment is the word, then
Yeah.
what is the entry level ante for enlightenment?
Yeah, exactly.
That's
What
the
is-
word I'm trying to think of.
Yeah, good.
Is it like passive awareness? You know it's out there, but you're not doing anything with it?
Yeah, okay, yeah, so you know that there is a higher something,
Something.
but you're not in touch with it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, maybe this might help. So, to contextualize it, maybe let's just think in moral terms for a minute. Not my favorite way to do it, but at 70%, again, we've got 7 out of the 10 commandments. So we don't kill people, maybe we don't cheat on our wives, and we don't covet our brothers, whatever. It's been a long time since I've done that.
Yeah, don't cover your neighbor's ass.
Yeah, exactly. Man, that is pretty challenging. So it's not a, I like passive awareness, right? It's like an understanding that there's something bigger out there, but there's also, if we're at 70%, there's some level of participation, right? There's something going on to say, like, I know that there are things that are good and things that are bad, and I avoid the bad things because I don't want God to smite me, or, Buddha to rain down on me, or whatever it is, right? Like, there's some kind of checks and balances that go on with how you handle yourself as a person, right? So in terms of like morality, like, again, we're not actively participating in criminality to any degree, but again, we're also not, I don't know, I'm just saying,
I don't know if to be spiritual is to be moral, though.
I agree, and that's, again, I was trying to contextualize it in a way that might help, but I agree, you don't have to be.
Well, I think like for me, I'm just starting out on my recovery sobriety journey and starting AA and understanding the spirituality part of it and it not being religious. And I have an understanding of it. I'm trying to start accessing it and working on it, but I definitely see myself at the 70% stage at best of just getting started. Like it's out there. I'm trying to think about what those steps are from an AA perspective and how that spirituality is all going to fit into it, but I'm not really building on that yet.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you could almost take this in, and I hate to do the AA thing because it didn't work for me, but like, when AA asks you to release power, maybe that's a 70% of like understanding that you are not the center of the universe. Is that kind of releasing of power, like maybe I
Okay,
need help or
beautiful.
something.
So we could say humility.
Humility.
Okay, nice. And I would say, like, this is, this is a value in most religious traditions, in most things, right? You humble yourself to whatever that higher power is. That's an intro level, that's a passive awareness of like, I know it's not about me, there's something else going on. Nice, good. Good, how do we build on that? What gets deeper, or what gets more into 80%? Okay, so again, let's try and contextualize it. Maybe not through a moral lens this time, but maybe like through like an interaction with humanity, right? If you develop some humility, you understand that you're not the center of the universe, so your viewpoint starts to expand, right? You understand that there's some kind of higher power, or the universe is a bigger thing, and you're just a minuscule part of that. How does that affect how you do daily life, or interact with other people, or?
Well, at that point, would you be seeking?
Okay, so now we go from passive to active. So humility starts it, and now you're actively
Yeah,
looking.
so you know there's something greater than you, but you're not, this is at 70.
Yeah.
You're not contemplating it, you're not looking out for it, but you know that it's there, but I think at 80% time, you're saying, okay, well, what is there?
Okay.
Again, I'm seeking and identifying things that are higher, specific things.
Okay, excellent.
Seeking,
Again, go ahead.
yeah, seeking is good.
Yeah, and again,
Installation.
really, really good part of most religious traditions, right? There has to be some active participation in how that goes.
Actually, I think God finds you, not the other way around.
Well, there's lots of stories about it. Okay, and then just to play off of that, maybe this could also be openness.
Yeah.
Right, that would be like the other end of the spectrum. You're willing to receive something from the higher power of the universe, etc. Yeah, both of those are good, I think. Nice. I already know what I think 90% is, but you guys tell me. It's already been mentioned even. Charcoal for myself.
I think this is a connection with whatever that is, your higher power or the universe, or feeling like you're a part of and you're connected with your spirituality.
I think you're on the right track. I like that. So, what would be a way?
For me, like somebody who how I view spirituality is a connection with the universe and the planet in particular. And for me, my highest level of spirituality is, and what I try to achieve is having that deep connection with nature and the planet and other people and the universe. And that for me is what somebody that's spiritually at 90% does. So I'm having trouble putting it into words.
So, do you do that on a daily basis?
I try to.
Yeah, good.
Yeah.
So it's
I'm in my garden every day, which is a very spiritual thing for me, and so yeah, I try to do that every day.
good. So the first thing I think is a daily practice.
Yeah.
Right? You've done seeking, you've done openness. Again, talking about like how we start to set up sort of like structures and programs and things like this, I think that really applies here as well. Okay, daily practice. Maybe one more way of thinking about that.
I think for me, 90% for spiritually, but maybe for all of them, is being able to fail and still recover and get back to it. So like, having a failure doesn't knock me down to zero. It just is a misstep that I can recover from.
Okay.
And if I can do that, I'm closer to 90% and I'm closer to 70%.
Yeah. I like that. You're about building up to a point where even if a little fallback happens, you're still pretty close. Okay. And I think that kind of goes along with daily practice, right? That's like a method of checking in about how you're doing, and there's an assessment and awareness of self. This is the one that is important for me. So we've talked about this, and we will continue to talk about this. And why is that a spiritual element?
It's for something or someone outside yourself.
Yeah, right. I don't benefit anything from this in the sense that I receive, right? It's in its most perfect state. It's unconditional, right? It requires a ton of humility, a ton of compassion. Does that seem like bullshit?
No.
Oh, okay. And frankly, this is the one that I see most men struggle with. Because,
I've been trying it a lot ever since we did our.
and we'll continue to talk about
We
it.
talked about it a lot.
Yeah, and we will. And the thing is like, the way that most of us are conditioned, I mean, it goes back to kind of what Will was talking about earlier, right? Your value comes from your ability to provide, your ability to make sure that other people are well taken care of. There's nothing wrong with that, right? If we start to do things where we don't get that reverb, it requires us to have a big container, right? Because it's pouring from ourselves without necessarily getting anything back from it,
Yeah,
right? So
I get something back.
Yeah,
It
for
makes
sure.
me feel amazing.
Right.
but I know
Right.
what you mean.
But that's like higher level thinking, right? For you to be able to look at a situation where you don't receive any tangible value from it and
Right.
still wrap your head around like this was a positive thing for me to do, that's not happening here.
No.
Right. So, again, there's lots of ways we can talk about that, and I think we should. What was the word I was going to say? Conditional. It's gone. Anyway, I would say if this is a thing that you struggle with or you don't have access to, it's a muscle that has to kind of constantly be worked out, right? We had that conversation last week about like, there's no wrong way to do it, but you have to really start to be aware of where the opportunities are.
Last week I was like, I got home late, I was like, fuck, I gotta do some service right now. And I looked outside, I have really old neighbors and their bins were down still at the thing, so I just took their bins up to the
Yeah,
side of the house.
exactly.
It is easy. Once you start to look for it, it's there.
Okay. I like that. It's a good start. This is gonna be, again, kind of added to the curriculum that we've already talked about, the hero's journey stuff, because I think it's super relevant. And again, my intention was to try to take some of the pressure off of ourselves, to understand that, all of these things exist on a spectrum. There's no way to do them wrong. There's lots of ways to do them right. All the stuff we've talked about as far as incremental progress, right? You can make little bits of all of these get better every day. Love the foundation idea where it's like if we start to set ourselves up really well and build on these things, even when we experience setbacks, it's never like back to zero or to failing, right? It gives us a place to kind of land and reevaluate and then start working forward again. Make sense? Want to add anything else before we close out? All right, cool. Let's just check out. Give me a number. What did I say we were doing for homework?
You did.
I did too. I said something.
How do we get to emotional?
Yes. Understanding emotions to emotional refinement. Okay, and we're kind of phrasing that in terms of relational stuff, right? Again, you can do plenty of work on yourself internally. That's also super valuable. But when we start to figure out how to create connection, how to observe people's emotion, how to interact with that and communicate about it in meaningful ways, it gets easier, for sure. Where are we at? Did we make it to 8:45?
It's 8:50.
Oh, perfect. It's not even early. All right, awesome work, you guys. That's all I've got for tonight. Give me a high five on the way out. We'll see you on Friday.
Thanks for letting me join you guys. Appreciate it.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Excited to see you when you get done with your,
Yeah, whatever that will be.
you're gonna do great, man.
Thanks. Thank you, bye. I really appreciate it.
Emotional is fine,
Hey,
man.
good luck ahead.
You just have to have a Latina fiance. You'll get your emotions.
You have to. Thanks, man.
Good night.
I may or may not be here Friday, I might have a work.
You may or may not. Did you check in with Nevin about going down?